Have you ever wondered why certain shadows keep following you, no matter how brightly you try to light your path? Why some parts of your life feel like an endless loop, circling back to the same wounds, the same silent sufferings, the same hidden despair? Let me ask you something more uncomfortable still. What are you still carrying that belongs not to your present, but to the ghosts of your past? If you feel exhausted by your own mind, if you wake up in the middle of the night with a heaviness pressing upon your chest, know that it is not madness nor weakness. It is the voice of your unconscious demanding to be heard. For nothing inside the human psyche remains silent forever. What we repress returns, disguised, persistent, and sometimes cruel. And what you refuse to eliminate silently from your life becomes the very chains that bind you to your pain. I am not here to offer you soothing illusions. I am here to offer you the hardest truth. Freedom does not come from adding more things to your life, but from subtracting all that poisons it. And in that subtraction lies the only true path toward. Mind that is your ally, rather than your jailer. So let me guide you through this examination, as if we were in the intimacy of my consulting room. Come closer. Do not be afraid. This will not destroy you. It will reveal you. For there are at least 10 things you must silently remove from your life if you wish to be free from your own compulsions, your own self-betrayals, your own unending repetition of pain. The first thing is unquestioned guilt that controls your choices. Tell me, who taught you that you had to pay for simply existing? That you must always atone for a crime you cannot name? Many who sit before me carry an invisible burden of guilt, woven into them since childhood, when the small self tried to be perfect for love that felt conditional. Guilt becomes a tyrant, whispering that you do not deserve rest, joy, or forgiveness unless you sacrifice yourself endlessly. This is not conscience, it is a prison. The voice that says, I must, without any examination, is rarely the voice of truth. It is the echo of your superego, shaped by the fears and moral demands of those who came before you. Release it. Question it, for guilt that remains unexamined shapes your entire existence like a hidden hand. The second thing you must silently remove is relationships that feed your unconscious wounds. Do not confuse familiarity with safety. Many remain bound to lovers, friends, even family members who recreate the very conditions of their childhood traumas, as if trying to solve an old riddle by repeating the same painful story. The unconscious chooses the familiar, even if it is cruel. A man whose mother withheld affection finds women who remain just out of reach. A woman criticized as a child marries a man whose words are knives. Why? Because your unconscious seeks to master the trauma by replaying it, hoping for a different ending. But the ending does not change until you withdraw from the stage. Remove these relationships in silence, if you must, not out of hatred, but out of the deepest love for the self you are trying to save. The third thing is the obsession to please everyone at your own cost. How many times have you said yes when your entire being screamed no? You believe that to be good, to be loved, you must abandon yourself for the comfort of others. Yet this is the greatest abandonment of all, the abandonment of your own truth. Remember this. Every act of self-betrayal is a message to your unconscious that your needs do not matter, and your unconscious keeps score. Your body will rebel with symptoms. Your soul will grow silent and sad. You must begin to remove the compulsion to please slowly with trembling steps. You owe no one the sacrifice of your soul. The fourth thing you must eliminate is suppressing desires that keep returning in disguise. Desire, my dear, is not your enemy. Repression is. For what you bury alive will crawl back in the dark, transformed into symptoms, obsessions, and destructive acts. A man who represses his sexual desire becomes rigid and moralistic, only to find himself swept away by scandalous impulses he cannot explain. A woman who denies her longing for freedom finds herself suffocating in the smallest acts of daily routine. Desire is not sin, it is life force. You must dare to look at it, to name it, even if you choose not to act upon it. For unspoken desire is the origin of many neuroses. The fifth thing is self-sabotaging patterns rooted in childhood pain. Listen carefully. Your self-sabotage is not stupidity. It is loyalty to the child you once were. A child who felt unloved may sabotage every success, lest he prove his parents wrong and lose the only connection he had suffering. A child who is punished for joy may create chaos each time happiness appears, believing unconsciously that pleasure must be paid for in pain. These patterns are not accidents. They are scripts written long ago. You must become aware of the moments when you stand on the threshold of joy, only to turn back toward sorrow. And there, you must refuse to repeat the past. Let me pause here. My friend, for even naming these 5 truths is enough to stir the waters of your unconscious. Perhaps you feel something trembling beneath your skin, a mixture of fear and recognition. Do not run from it. This discomfort is the sign that something is awakening in you, something that longs to live without chains. I want you to breathe deeply and ask yourself now, which of these 5 poisons live in me? To whom or to what have I given my life in? Silent sacrifice? And how much longer will I choose to remain captive to forces that are not mine, but were implanted in me when I was too young to defend myself? I invite you to stay with me on this journey. We have 5 more truths to unveil. Each is a door toward freedom. But remember, liberation is not found in noise, nor in desperate gestures. It is found in the silent choices you make each day to no longer betray yourself. Stay close, for we will go deeper still. You are still here. That already tells me much about you. It tells me that something in you longs for clarity more than comfort, for liberation more than the easy illusions that keep so many others asleep. Very few are willing to follow me into the corridors of their own unconscious. But you, it seems, are ready to keep walking. So let us proceed. For we still have 5 shadows to expose, 5 invisible chains you must silently remove if you wish to taste the profound freedom of living as your authentic self. The 6th thing you must eliminate is the constant fear of rejection and abandonment. Tell me, have you noticed how much of your life revolves around avoiding rejection? How many words you swallow, how many truths you suffocate, how many parts of yourself you hide behind a mask, simply to remain accepted, loved, chosen. This fear is often the echo of childhood experiences when love felt conditional, when one false step might have meant losing affection, safety, or belonging. It creates adults who would rather betray themselves than risk displeasing others. And so you remain quiet when you should roar. You remain small when you were born to take up space. Understand this. The fear of abandonment is often more painful than the abandonment itself. Your psyche tries to preempt pain by sacrificing authenticity. But this sacrifice is a slow poison. The only way to dissolve this fear is to stay present in your truth, even when that truth might cause distance. It is the paradox of the psyche. We fear losing others, yet we lose ourselves first. And silently. The 7th thing you must remove is the compulsive need to be good for others' approval. Good is a dangerous word. Who defines what good means? Often it is the voice of your parents, your culture, your religious institutions, the moral codes that shaped your superego long before you had the power to question them. Many of my patients come to me exhausted, burned out from a lifetime of performing goodness, from playing the role of the savior, the caretaker, the ever-patient, ever-smiling presence in everyone else's drama. The world praises them yet. Inside, they are dying. Remember this. Goodness that destroys your health, your spirit, your truth, is not virtue. It is self-erasure. I have seen saints in my consulting room, people who have given everything away, yet feel nothing but resentment and quiet despair. You must begin the dangerous, beautiful work of becoming honest rather than good. To say no, to set limits, to disappoint others if that is what truth demands. For your life is not a stage for the approval of the crowd. The eighth thing you must eliminate is emotional masks that hide your true self. From childhood, we learn to wear masks. We create a persona, a public face to protect our vulnerabilities and win acceptance. A child learns to hide anger to avoid punishment. A teenager hides sensitivity to avoid ridicule. An adult hides longing because they believe it will be judged as weakness. And so the true self withdraws into the shadows of the unconscious. But masks, no matter how convincing, come at a terrible cost. They create an endless inner split. The self you show the world and the self you truly are grow ever more distant, until the person staring back at you in the mirror feels like a stranger. This is why so many suffer from an emptiness they cannot name. Your soul is suffocating behind the mask. To remove it is terrifying, for you fear rejection. Yet the price of keeping it is your very aliveness. Begin gently to let your true face emerge, even if only in small moments, with safe people, or even alone in your room. For until you dare to be seen, you will never truly feel loved. The ninth thing you must remove is the inner voice that calls you unworthy or not enough. There is a voice inside many of us that whispers, "You are not enough, not smart enough, not attractive enough, not successful enough, not worthy of love." This voice is not yours. It is the echo of those who failed to see you, or who projected their own wounds onto you when you were too young to defend yourself. The danger is that over time, you begin to mistake this voice for truth, and it shapes your life in quiet, devastating ways. You settle for less than you deserve. You sabotage good things. You avoid risks. You become invisible. Understand that this voice does not belong to the adult. It belongs to the wounded child within. Your task is to separate from it, to speak back, to say with conviction, "I am enough as I am." The repetition of this truth is an act of psychic rebellion. It is how you begin to rewire the neural pathways that have been paved by shame. And, finally, the 10th thing you must eliminate from your life is beliefs that suffering makes you more valuable. This is one of the most insidious illusions of the human psyche. Many have been taught by family, by religion, by culture, that suffering is noble, that pain purifies, that happiness is shallow or undeserved. It is as though one must bleed to earn the right to exist. And so people create suffering unconsciously to feel worthy. They remain in toxic relationships, endure jobs that destroy them, deny themselves joy as if joy must be paid for with sorrow. I tell you this, suffering is not a currency you must pay to exist. Pain is inevitable in life, yes, but it is not wholly in itself. The meaning lies in what you learn from pain, how you transform it, how you refuse to let it become your identity. You are not born to suffer endlessly. You are born to live, to love, to experience the full spectrum of existence, including pleasure, beauty, and delight. My friend, I know these truths may feel sharp against the delicate flesh of your soul, but I speak them because I believe in your capacity to survive them and to transform them into freedom. For everything you keep in silence festers and grows monstrous in the dark. But what you name, you can change. What you confront, you can. Release. Now, as we stand here, you and I, at the edge of this revelation, I ask you this: which of these 10 poisons do you cling to as if they are part of your identity? Who would you be if you let them go? I will tell you who you would be. You would be someone whose life is no longer ruled by ancient ghosts, whose choices come not from fear, but from truth, whose heart beats with a freedom that does not apologize. For existing, breathe. Let these words settle inside you like seeds. Seeds that may one day blossom into a life you cannot yet imagine. Stay with me, for there is more to say. We have opened the wounds. Now we must understand how to heal them. Are you still with me? Good. Then you are braver than most. Many turn away when the darkness begins to speak. But you, my friend, are choosing to listen. And that, in itself, is the beginning of transformation. Now, we stand at a crucial threshold. For it is not enough merely to identify what you must remove from your life. You must understand why you have held on to these poisons so tightly, why you have defended your own chains, even as they cut into your skin. This, indeed, is the paradox of the human mind. We suffer, and yet we cling to the source of our suffering, as if it were a talisman. Why? The answer lies in the unconscious. The unconscious does not measure life by happiness, but by familiarity. It prefers the known pain to the unknown possibility, because at least the known pain has boundaries. It is predictable, even if it is devastating. And so the child who grew up unseen may continue to choose invisibility in adulthood. The one who felt worthless may sabotage every spark of success to remain in the territory of certainty. The unconscious whispers, "Better the suffering I understand than the freedom I do not." This is why simply wishing to change is never enough. Desire alone cannot dissolve the chains that have become part of your identity. Let me share with you something I learned over decades of listening to the confessions of souls in torment. People do not fear change itself. They fear the grief of letting go of the self they have always known. To remove guilt, toxic relationships, self-sabotage, the inner voice of worthlessness, these are not merely behavioral changes. They are acts of psychic death and rebirth. You are being asked to bury old identities, to admit that years, perhaps decades of your life were lived in a pattern of illusion and suffering. This realization is devastating for many. It triggers a mourning so profound that some retreat back into their familiar prisons rather than face the emptiness of the unknown. But hear me, the emptiness you fear is not a tomb. It is a womb. It is the space from which your true self will emerge. The pain of letting go is the labor of your rebirth. Let us look closer at how each of these poisons takes root in the unconscious, and how you might begin the work of silent removal. Consider the guilt that controls your choices. Guilt is often the child of the superego, a part of your mind formed in childhood from the voices of your parents, teachers, religious authorities, and society. It is supposed to guide you toward moral living. Yet for many, the superego becomes tyrannical, demanding perfection, punishing every deviation with shame. The voice that says, "You are bad for wanting rest. You are selfish for saying no. You must earn love through sacrifice." But ask yourself this: who benefits from this? Guilt? Often, it is those who demand your obedience, your labor, your silence. Your liberation begins when you realize that guilt is not always conscience. It is sometimes manipulation. Now, look at the relationships that feed your wounds. Understand this: you are not drawn to people randomly. Your unconscious seeks out partners, friends, even colleagues who resonate with your childhood experiences. You are magnetized toward those who wound you in familiar ways, because, unconsciously, you are trying to resolve the original injury. But the resolution never comes. The script repeats, and you remain trapped in an emotional time loop. The first step toward freedom is to stop hoping that the person who wounds you will also heal you. They will not. Healing must come from within you. And what of your obsession to please everyone? This is a subtle poison. It seems so noble, so generous. But generosity that annihilates you is not virtue. It is self-betrayal. People-pleasing often begins in childhood as a survival mechanism. The child learns that love and safety are conditional, and so they become hypervigilant to the moods and needs of others. As adults, they cannot rest unless everyone around them is happy, yet this compulsion leaves them empty, resentful, and unseen. Remember this: your worth is not measured by how much you endure for others. Suppressed desires are perhaps the most misunderstood force in the psyche. Many believe that if they bury their desires deep enough, they will disappear. But the unconscious is not a cemetery. It is a theater. What you bury alive returns in disguise, sometimes as physical symptoms, sometimes as anxiety, sometimes as sudden, unexplainable acts that seem to come from nowhere. I have seen men who lived as models of moral rectitude suddenly destroy their lives in scandalous affairs. Women who appeared devoted to domestic life, secretly suffocating in bitterness, dreaming of escape. Desire must be acknowledged, even if it cannot be acted upon. For what you name, you can negotiate with. What you deny will devour you. You're self-sabotaging. Patterns are the ghosts of your childhood, speaking through your adult decisions. Understand this clearly. Every act of self-sabotage serves a purpose. It protects you from success that might trigger guilt, from love that might bring vulnerability, from happiness that might feel too alien to sustain. To break these patterns, you must first honor them. See them as loyal, if misguided, guardians of the child you once were. Only then can you release them. And what of the fear of rejection? The truth is, rejection does not wound you because of the person who rejects you. It wounds you because it echoes an ancient rejection, a primal moment when you felt unworthy of love. The pain you feel today is the resurgence of the pain you felt then. To heal, you must separate these timelines. Tell yourself, this is now, that was then. You are not that helpless child anymore. The compulsion to be good is, in the end, the compulsion to avoid punishment. It is the terror of losing belonging. Yet no one who truly loves you wants you to be good at the cost of your authenticity. Those who demand you stay small, silent, agreeable, they do not love you. They love the mask you wear. Emotional masks suffocate your vitality. They protect you from harm, but also from intimacy. When you remove the mask, some people will leave. The ninth thing you must remove is the inner voice that calls you unworthy or not enough. There is a voice inside many of us that whispers, you are not enough, not smart enough, not attractive enough, not successful enough, not worthy of love. This voice is not yours. It is the echo of those who failed to see you, or who projected their own wounds onto you when you were too young. And suffering, suffering. Many cling to it because it makes them feel virtuous, significant, even special. But hear me, there is no virtue in needless suffering. Life will bring you enough pain without you manufacturing more. You do not owe the world your misery. So, my friend, I ask you, are you willing to grieve the self you have been in order to become the self you were meant to be? This is the silent removal I speak of. Not dramatic gestures, but quiet decisions. 1,000 small acts of courage. 1,000 tiny deaths of old identities. And finally, the birth of a self who does not ask permission to exist. Do not fear the void left behind when you remove these poisons. For into that space, life will pour new possibilities, love, joy, a serenity you have never known. Remain with me. We have further to go. For the work of freedom has only begun. It is a curious thing, is it not? That the closer we move toward liberation, the more the unconscious resists. It is as though it fears its own freedom. Many who come to me in search of healing secretly desire to keep their chains. They wish to suffer just enough to feel heroic, but not so much that they must change. It is safer, they say, to live in the familiar darkness than to risk the blinding light of possibility. But if you are still listening to my voice, I suspect you want more than the comfort of your own prison. You want the truth. And truth, I assure you, is rarely gentle. It cuts, it shatters illusions, but it also purifies. So let us keep going, for the final steps of this journey are the most vital. We have spoken of what you must eliminate. Now let me speak of what you must create in the thee. Silence left behind. For if you merely strip away the poisons without replacing them with new ways of being, your psyche will rush back to the old patterns, as water rushes to fill an empty vessel. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the unconscious. First, you must create radical self-honesty. This is the foundation upon which all healing rests. Most suffering is perpetuated not by what happens to us, but by the lies we tell ourselves to avoid pain. You say, "I'm fine," when your soul is drowning. You say, "It's not a big deal," when your heart is breaking. You say, "I'm strong," when you are exhausted beyond endurance. These lies seem small, but each one severs you from your own reality. The unconscious knows the truth, and it rebels against your denial. This rebellion manifests as anxiety, depression, physical illness. Healing begins when you dare to look at yourself without flinching, to admit what you want, what you feel, what you fear. To say, "This is me in all my imperfection." Radical. Self-honesty is painful, but it is also the door to freedom. Second, you must cultivate boundaries as acts of self-respect. Boundaries are not walls. They are the fences that protect the sacred garden of your psyche. Many fear setting boundaries because they associate it with rejection or conflict. But boundaries are simply declarations of what you will and will not accept in your life. Without them, you live at the mercy of other people's chaos, moods, and expectations. Your energy becomes scattered. Your identity dissolves. Learn to say no without apology, to walk away from conversations that drain your soul, to leave spaces where you are not honored. Each time you set a boundary, you teach your unconscious that your life matters. Third, you must reclaim your right to desire. You are a being of desires. Desire is not sinful. It is the compass of your soul. It points you toward what is meaningful, beautiful, and life-giving. Yes, not every desire must be acted upon. Some remain in the realm of fantasy, and that is perfectly human. But to forbid yourself from desiring altogether is to cut off your lifeblood. Many who suffer depression are not merely sad, they are disconnected from desire. They have convinced themselves that wanting is dangerous, selfish, or impossible. I tell you this, desire does not make you greedy. It makes you alive. Dare to ask, what do I truly want? Even if the answer terrifies you. For it is only in that question that your real path emerges. Fourth, you must embrace the art of solitude. So many flee from being alone, because in silence, the voices of the unconscious grow louder. But solitude is not loneliness. It is the sacred space in which you reconnect with yourself, away from the noise and projections of the world. In solitude, you can hear the whispers of your deeper truths. You can dream. You can grieve. You can heal. Make time each day to be with yourself, even for a few minutes. Let your mind wander. Listen to what arises. Your unconscious has wisdom to share, if only you are willing to sit still long enough to hear it. Fifth, you must cultivate compassion for your own wounds. Too many people come to me seeking to eradicate their wounds as though these parts of themselves are shameful infections. But your wounds are not proof of weakness. They are proof that you have lived, loved, risked, suffered, and survived. 2. Heal does not mean to erase all scars. It means to integrate them into your story so that they no longer bleed each time they are touched. Speak gently to the parts of you that still tremble. Hold them as you would hold a child. Tell them, I see you, I forgive you. You are safe now. For it is not harshness, but tenderness that unlocks the gates of the unconscious. Sixth, you must practice living without certainty. The mind longs for control. It seeks predictions, guarantees, safety. Yet life is not a problem to be solved. It is a mystery to be lived. Much of human suffering comes from the refusal to accept uncertainty. You wait for the perfect moment, the perfect relationship, the perfect certainty that you will not be hurt again. But this moment never comes. Healing requires surrendering to the unknown, saying yes to the imperfect, the unfinished, the unpredictable. Your unconscious will rebel against this, for it equates uncertainty with danger. But over time, you can teach it that uncertainty is also possibility. It is where freedom lives. Seventh, you must awaken your curiosity toward your own mind. Many fear exploring their unconscious because they believe it houses only darkness. But the unconscious is not merely a vault of repressed trauma. It is also the reservoir of creativity, intuition, humor, and insight. Become curious about your dreams, your slips of the tongue, your sudden emotions. These are messages from your inner world. They are clues leading you back to your forgotten self. Keep a journal. Write your dreams each morning. Reflect on these feelings that make no sense. The unconscious is waiting for your attention, and it rewards curiosity with revelations. Eighth, you must allow yourself the permission to change. Many people believe that once they have established an identity, they must defend it at all costs. This is just who I am, they say. But identity is not fixed, it is fluid, evolving. You are allowed to grow beyond your past selves. You are allowed to become someone who surprises even you. Change is not betrayal. It is the fulfillment of your nature. The unconscious, too, desires expansion. It yearns for new experiences, new knowledge, new expressions. Do not imprison yourself in outdated versions of who you used to be. Ninth, you must learn the power of conscious choices. Much of your life has been shaped by unconscious compulsion. You react rather than act. You repeat rather than create. True. Freedom comes when you bring these compulsions into awareness and choose differently. The unconscious does not disappear, but it becomes an ally rather than a saboteur. When you feel pulled toward an old pattern, pause. Ask yourself, is this truly what I want, or is it a repetition of my past? A space between impulse and action is where your freedom lives. 10th, and perhaps most importantly, you must nurture hope as a force of life. Many who have suffered deeply become cynical, convinced that hope is naive, that joy is foolish. But hope is not denial of reality. It is the refusal to surrender to despair. It is the inner conviction that even in darkness, something new is possible. Your unconscious responds to hope like a flower responds to light. It begins to open, to breathe, to offer you visions of what your life could be. Do not let the wounds of the past convince you that your story is over. As long as you live, there is more to write. So, my friend, as we stand here together, I ask you to reflect. Which of these new ways of living calls to you most strongly? Which feels impossible, and why? I will not lie to you. The work of transformation is difficult. You will grieve. You will resist. You will sometimes long to retreat into the familiar shadows. But I promise you this, there is no greater liberation than living as your true self, free from the silent poisons that once ruled your mind. Stay with me for the final part of our journey, for we must bring all these truths into a single vision, a life that is no longer dictated by the chains of your past, but guided by the light of your own conscious freedom. We have traveled far together, you and I, through corridors of guilt and shadows of shame, through memories hidden in the folds of your unconscious, through wounds that bled quietly beneath the surface of your smile. You have listened with bravery, even when my words cut into the illusions you held close for comfort. And for this, I honor you. But there remains one final truth I must share with you before we part. It is this: the work of silent removal is not a single act, it is a lifelong practice. Liberation does not arrive in a single thunderclap of enlightenment. It comes in quiet moments, in trembling choices, in the daily act of refusing to betray yourself again. You may think now, as many do, I have named my poisons. I am ready to be free. Yet beware the cunning nature of the unconscious. What you remove today may seek to return tomorrow, wearing new disguises. Guilt may come back cloaked as obligation. The toxic relationship may reappear in a new face. The voice of not enough may whisper again in the silence of the night. Do not despair when this happens. It does not mean you have failed. It means you are human, engaged in the lifelong dance between your conscious will and the tides of your unconscious. The goal is not perfection. The goal is awareness. Each time you catch the pattern returning, each time you pause instead of repeating, you weaken its power over you. Understand that freedom is not the absence of all suffering. It is the capacity to see your suffering clearly, to refuse to let it define you, and to choose a different path. Even when your voice shakes, even when your legs tremble, I want to leave you with this. Your suffering has meaning, but only if you transform it into wisdom. Do not worship your wounds. Do not let them become the center of your identity. You are not your trauma. You are the one who survived it. You are the one who carries the possibility of breaking ancestral chains. You are the one who can choose to end the silent inheritance of pain. You see, the mind is not a fixed machine. It is a living organism, capable of renewal. Neuroscience now confirms what psychoanalysis intuited long ago. The brain can rewire itself. New neural pathways can be formed. New thoughts can become new emotions. New emotions can become new actions. It is never too late for you to become someone new. But for this rebirth to occur, you must first allow something to die. The old identities, the old loyalties, the false beliefs that kept you small. It is grief, yes, but it is sacred grief. It is the mourning of illusions that kept you from yourself. So, my friend, let me ask you once more, what are you willing to let die so that your true self may be born? Perhaps you fear that if you let go of your pain, you will lose your depth. Many artists, poets, and thinkers come to me worried that their creativity is fueled by their suffering. Let me assure you, pain may have given you insight, but it is not your only wellspring. Joy, too, is a source of profound creativity. Love can be as sharp a muse as sorrow. When you release your poisons, you do not become shallow, you become whole. And what of love? Let me tell you something few dare to say. You cannot truly love or be loved until you remove these silent poisons. For otherwise, you bring your wounds into every embrace, every conversation, every dream you share with another. You seek partners not for love, but for the unconscious hope that they will heal what only you can heal. You project your old ghosts onto their faces. You test them endlessly to see if they will abandon you, as others once did. But when you do the work of silent removal, when you confront your shadows, when you stand naked before your own soul and accept what you find, you finally become capable of love without chains. You can love freely without needing the other to complete you or rescue you. And you can receive love without suspicion or fear. This, my friend, is the purest form of intimacy. Many ask me, is it worth it, this journey into my own depths? Is it worth the pain of excavating old wounds, the terror of releasing old patterns? And I tell them, as I tell you now, Yes, 1,000 times, yes. For what awaits you on the other side is not merely the absence of suffering. It is a life of conscious choice. It is the joy of living as a unified self, no longer torn between desire and fear. It is the peace of knowing that your mind is not your enemy, but your ally. Let me remind you that nothing in you is beyond redemption. No matter how long you have lived in patterns of guilt, shame, or fear, you can begin again. The human psyche is infinitely resilient. Even those who have been crushed by unimaginable pain can rise, transformed, luminous in the aftermath of darkness. But remember, this work is yours alone. No one can walk it for you. I can speak to you. I can shine a light into your hidden places. But I cannot remove the poisons from your life. Only you can do that, silently, patiently, relentlessly. So let me leave you with this final invocation. May you become the conscious guardian of your own soul. May you silence the voices that tell you you are not enough. May you stand in the light of your own truth without apology. May you release what does not belong to your freedom. May you live not as a prisoner of your past, but as the author of your future. And if ever you feel lost again, remember this. The door to freedom is always open. It is carved not in marble, but in the silent choices you make each day. And every time you choose truth over fear, love over guilt, consciousness over compulsion, you step through that door. Thank you for sharing this time with me, for trusting me with your inner world. I am honored to have walked this path beside you. Now go and live a life unburdened by the shadows of yesterday. Your liberation awaits. If these words have awakened something within you, I invite you to share your reflections below. Tell me, which poison will you remove first? What truth will you embrace? Let your words become part of your healing. For even in speaking, there is power, and in sharing, there is freedom. Until we meet again in thought, in dream, or in the quiet moments when your soul whispers to you, I remain, always, your fellow seeker of hidden truths, Sigmund Freud. If you found value in this journey, consider subscribing, sharing this message, and inviting others into this silent revolution of the soul. For freedom, like knowledge, grows greater the more it is shared.